Good evening, and welcome to C3Arts Radio. I'm getting a little late start here today. But you know what this is. This is your loyal host, Philip Harvey. And we are the broadcast arm of the City College Center for the Arts. Now, along with our position as the broadcast arm of the City College Center for the Arts, we are also your place for arts advocacy. Very much part of our mission. In fact, that it's the core of our mission, right? To advocate on behalf of the artists, the arts organizations, the administrators, the curators, the dancers, the musicians, the advocates. Definitely the advocates. This is your place. Arts advocacy, C3 Arts Radio. And we are coming to you live and direct from City College, New York. Of course, the college on the hill. And we're right in the middle of a hazy summer right now. A hazy summer day. It's okay, though. You know, if you've been following us for a while, we always complain about the weather one way or the other. So 2017, that's going to cease. I'm going to stop complaining about the weather. We'll see how that works. Well, every Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m., C3 Arts Radio comes to you right here, WHCR 90.3 FM. You can also live stream us at WHCR.org. And you can just listen to us online, tunein.com, WHCR-FM. Man, we are the broadcast arm of City College Center for the Arts. Now, one of our other duties, I just got to talk about arts advocacy. I'm going through the line here today, okay? So the other duty that we have here is to make sure that you are up and aware on all things that are happening in the world of the cultural arts, right? Both locally, and say locally right here, Harlem, the voice of Harlem, but also nationally, internationally. Hey, we're worldwide, baby. So that is another one of our duties here, every Tuesday, 5 to 6 p.m. And then we just like to make sure that you are entertained and always listening to the best music, right? One of the great fine things in life is to make sure you are listening to great music. So we're going to get into that for a moment and be back in a moment. This is C3 Arts Radio. We got a great show lined up for you. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We are always back right here, WHCR 90.3 FM. This is C3Arts Radio. And we are the broadcast arm of the City College Center for the Arts. Now, all of our loyal listeners out there know that we have been really trying to get to the heart of the art. I'm not trying to be a poet, but sometimes it's happening. The art of storytelling is what I'm trying to say. And so we've had this segment that we've been trying to build some momentum with, and we haven't necessarily gotten there. So we're going to re-roll it. What's the word? I believe we call it here, C3 Arts Radio. Well, I had to bring in a ringer, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that later. I had to bring in a true professional to really get the ball rolling on our art of storytelling here at C3 Arts Radio. And so we're going to get into that a little bit later, because our guest here today happens to be that ringer. Her name is Dr. Linda H. Humes, and she is the founder of Yaffa Cultural Arts Incorporated. And if that name rings a bell, well, it should. We're talking about one of the most enduring performing arts and visual arts educational organizations in New York. And just to prove it, they are now celebrating their 25th year. So Dr. Humes, who, as well as an educator, she's also an actor, a performance artist in her own right, of course. And she is a former colleague and definitely a friend of yours truly. I want to welcome to the show Dr. Linda H. Humes. How are you?
I'm fine, Philip. I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I've been trying to get you up here for a while. I've been having my issues, so
Divine order.
I'm not going to let it go too long. I'll definitely make it happen. And I think this is a great timing for a couple of reasons. One is our own thing, bringing the ringer in to help us with our storytelling excursions here, but also to really kind of get into the 25th anniversary of Yaffa Cultural Arts. And I know the last celebration that you guys did was the 16th year. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah. So I know time goes by so fast. And I was watching some of the images from the 16th anniversary. It looked like a lot of fun, so I'm sure this is going to be a blast too. Yeah.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be at the Sugar Hill Museum of Storytelling,
Right,
which is
right.
a new institution
Absolutely.
in Harlem dedicated to storytelling and visual
Absolutely.
arts. And so it is amazing that we're going to be able to celebrate our 25th anniversary of giving service to the New York City community and beyond at this historic institution.
All right. That sounds real good. Let's take a step back, though. We always like to talk about origin stories here at C3Arts. Just kind of get a sense of where someone first kind of comes to grips with this kind of, not only the creative energy, which we generally believe everyone shares, but this ability to kind of tap into it and then make organizations from it, and beyond just your own sense of your own platform for performing. You create platforms from other people. Where did this start? Does this start in the family, or were you odd in that sense? How would you describe that?
I don't think I was odd in that sense. However, there was a wonderful program, I don't know if it still exists, called the Executive Internship Program when I was going to high school.
Mm-hmm.
And my internship was at Lincoln Center,
Mm-hmm.
working with Juilliard. And my position as a teenager was to engage the teenagers who were receiving arts and education performances from the Juilliard students, and be that liaison, if you will, to bridging the gap in the communication. So what a wonderful way to start arts and education, at Lincoln Center.
Absolutely.
And so it was an amazing experience. I didn't realize how that really fed my path until later, but it really started there in terms of arts and education.
Right.
You know, and so then when I went to Stony Brook, my friends and I, we started the first Black theater ensemble on Stony Brook's campus.
See, this is what I'm getting at. It's like the idea of starting as well as performance, and also kind of creating organizations.
And it comes out of a need. I don't think that it's because I had such great vision. There was a need. At that time, the theater department at Stony Brook wasn't, I don't even think that they had the language then of non-traditional casting.
Right, yeah.
So for us to do roles that we felt could stretch us in terms of artists, it means that there needed to be a venue, a space for that. And if we wanted to do performance work that spoke to our community, we needed to do that.
Right.
You see,
right,
so
yeah,
a lot of that came out of the need for it.
So would you consider your kind of artistic training to be in theater as you were coming up?
Yeah, well, when I started, I minored in theater because I was really hard-headed. So by the time I had to start taking the classes in stage managing and the technical production, and you had to learn about the nails. I remember coming home on one weekend, as my father was one of these men that loved his workshop and was always tinkering. And I was like, "Daddy, what is this nail and that nail?" And he's like, "I don't know why you have to learn all about these nails," But I did have the vision, and a lot of times when we're teaching young people, we don't teach them why it is important to learn these things.
Right,
you see, and as you being a producer, understand clearly how important important it is to know these different avenues. But at that time, I was like, I want to learn how to act, you know.
Right.
So I mind, and again, you know, the roles that were offered and the cultural relevance of the education. And I was hard headed and, you know, cocky. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna minor in theater. But my background was absolutely theater, you know. And so when I graduated from Stony Brook, you know, I went straight into acting, you know, and then I became the entertainment reporter of PM Magazine. I'm really dating myself now, you know, which was the first magazine format show, you know, and just did theater and TV and film and commercials. And then went to enrolled in NYU's arts administration program.
Okay.
And then took a long break because of performing, you know, and then went back and completed my master's in arts administration. So there was always this double head, you know, this head that wanted to perform, but then also this head that wanted to be involved with creating content.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So now, 1989. Now, is that an important year? That's a year. That's a turnabout year there.
Really, you well, listen. You know, you do your research. 1989 was such an important year. So the National Association of Black Storytellers, which is the only national organization that advocates for Black storytelling, if you will, and it's a resource for Black storytellers all over the country and actually also internationally, held their annual festival at Medgar Evers College, 1989.
Right.
And Aburu, the ancestor, beautiful Dr. Mary Umalo, who was at that time the chair of the communications department at Medgar Evers, brought the festival in. Later on, she married my godfather, but that's something else.
That's another story.
That's another story. Okay. Later on, she became my godmother, but that's another story. But at that time, she hired me to MC the event.
Okay.
At that time, I was working for Arts Connection, which is the largest arts and education organization in New York. At least at that time it was. So I was booking storytellers. I didn't consider myself a storyteller. I was an actress. I was an arts administrator. The best storytellers from around the country, you know, not just Black storytellers, but white storytellers, Latino storytellers. And I had the opportunity to sit at the feet of Jackie Torrance, you know, to sit at the feet of Laura Sims, to sit at the feet of Charlotte Alston Blake, you know, of and on, of Baba Jamal Karam, on all of these storytellers, historians, oral tradition, Jollies. And that's when it triggered, this is what I'm supposed to do. My spirit is a storyteller.
Wow.
You see, because my family was a family of storytellers, not in a professional way, but I think that many of us grew up in homes where they told stories. Thanksgiving, you know, you have to go to your room, but you were listening, and Uncle so-and-so from Honduras was talking about the politics, and this one was talking about Castro, and they were talking about this and that, and, you know, and they talked about the ghost stories, you know, they talked about how they saw Aunt so-and-so flash by, and, you know, and then I realized this is all part of Black storytelling and storytelling as a whole, and how humanity was able to continue the spirit of what it is to be a human being. So I grew up with these stories.
It's fascinating, right? It's also the building block, right? It's the atom of any other kind of art form anyway. It's just the telling of a story.
Absolutely. And that's why, you know, so many of the historians, they talk about this notion of African oral tradition or African art tradition, and it includes the dance, it includes the visual arts, it includes, of course, the spoken word. And so in many indigenous cultures and in African culture, the storytelling is all encompassed with that. Right. You see, so the dance has the story, the dance, you know, the masks is the visual arts. It's not separated like that, right? Yeah, so there's okay, let me just say one more sentence. So the move in Black storytelling is to really understand how it encompasses all of these things.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now, in this year, so you kind of had this kind of awakening. Now, how does that move into Yaffa? How does that prepare you for launching of Yaffa?
Well, all right. So we founded Yaffa 25 years ago now, right? When I was a mere child, and what happened is, we always had visual artists, dancers, theater people, video people, storytellers on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened is after 9/11, we really began to recognize the healing components of the arts.
Mm-hmm.
So then we created Healing for the Arts, so that we began to work more and more with the community beyond the schools and the education community, but moved on to social service organization, working with the homeless, working with people who were struggling with addictions,
Mm-hmm.
motivation, and using the arts literally to heal.
Right. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so as I feel that I developed as an artist and a educator and a storyteller, the program component of Yaffa also grew. So we not only have artists on the roster anymore, we have an array of consultants now.
Yeah.
We have
there's quite a big family.
social
around Yaffa.
workers,
Yes.
we have educators, we have people who are scholars in leadership, so that we can provide for our clients really the information that is needed to empower them, to empower the staff, to empower their clients in a different way. So we've kind of really, I feel, and I think that the board and everyone that we work with really feel that we have to take the power and the authority to educate people,
Yeah.
from the cradle to the grave.
Absolutely.
Now more than ever.
Absolutely. We're going to get into that in a little bit. We have Dr. Linda H. Humes with us here, Yaffa Cultural Arts, and we're going to get right back. We got a lot more to talk about. C3Arts Radio. And we're back. C3Arts Radio, right here, WHCR 90.3. And always remember, between 5 and 6 p.m. every Tuesday. And if you're not right here in Manhattan and trying to figure out how to find us, how to see us, how to hear us, go to WHCR.org. That's where you can live stream us. And then you can also, of course, go to tunein.com, WHCR-FM. And, the party doesn't stop there. You can always check us out online. Come to Facebook. On Facebook, we are C3Arts Radio. On Twitter, at C3Arts Radio. And on Instagram, at C3Arts Radio. And then we have the most beautiful website in the world. I keep telling everyone that. I hope you've seen it. I hope you kind of checked it out and saw me at my word, right? So that's C3ArtsRadio.com. And we have here today another one of our very special guests. We always bring the most interesting personalities from the world of the cultural arts to you, and today is definitely one of those examples. We have Dr. Linda H. Humes, the founder of Yaffa Cultural Arts Incorporated, but also an educator, performance arts, actor, on and on. And so we are very happy to have us here. And we've been talking a little bit. We said we're going to get into what's going on with Yaffa today. So we have 25 years. And I think if you go through the history of Yaffa and you just see how Yaffa has adapted and kind of weathered the storm. 25 years of running any kind of 501c3 is particularly difficult, but also the one that is so in tune and services so many needs in the community is, of course, something totally different. So this is great that we're celebrating Yaffa this year. What's on the market this year? What's happening at Yaffa today?
Well, I'm really excited about a few of our initiatives. First of all, we have a really comprehensive early childhood initiative where we work with early childhood centers, and we work with them on many levels. We work with them with strategic planning. We do professional development with them. We do parent engagement programs with them. We do direct services to children where we bring in cultural entertainment. And that's really important to me because I feel that we have to get the institutions that work with children at a very, very young age. Many times preschool educators are dismissed, but
Right.
if
Yeah.
we can get them there, it really starts them on a track, not just an academic track, but also a track of consciousness of what kind of human beings they're going to be. And I feel that it's very, very important for us now in our world to really embrace being global citizens and
Absolutely.
humanity. So whether it's preschool children or whether it's college students, when they finish school or when they become adults, what kind of consciousness are they going to bring to whatever profession they go in? And that's really where it's at right now. Are we going to have in 20 years, what kind of CEOs are we going to have? What kind of politicians are we going to have? What kind of doctors are we going to have? So the early childhood component is so important. Parents need a lot of support too, and so one of the things that we've done is that we've helped to create a parent resource room at one of the daycare centers that we are one of our clients, and that's great. The other piece is that we're moving now also working with the medical profession, and specifically with storytelling and music, because we understand how important music is in healing.
Absolutely.
But also not just for the patients, but the professionals, the doctors, the nurses, the people who are the caretakers. They need to understand how important it is to be able to get the stories from their patients and how they are able to be inviting so that people can talk to them, because part of the diagnosis is the story that they get from patients. So we're beginning to do some of that work which is life-saving, really.
I see.
With the bedside manner, so it's not rocket science. It's kind of going back to way things were when you had your doctor who came by the house with his little black bag,
Right.
But we lose that with people, and cultural diversity and cultural sensitivity is very, very important with that. In the medical profession, when you have so many people coming from different countries and they do not understand the people that they're working with in terms of their culture, we have got to be able to respect other cultures and have a real curiosity about other cultures and embrace our own cultures, but also be curious and respectful for other cultures. So that goes across the board in any profession. But I'm really excited that besides for the corporate work we do and the work we do with educational institutions, that we are now moving on and doing work with the medical institutions as far as that's concerned.
Okay.
Thirdly, the other piece that I'm really excited about is that we are partnering with a fantastic organization, Friends of the Island Academy, that's doing some groundbreaking work at Rikers. And they are really taking all the data and the research and putting it into practice, and we're really excited about being part of that initiative, working with the young people at Rikers and following up with them also when they come home.
Right. See, there's always something going on in Yaffa, let me tell you. There's always something
We keep
going
it
on.
moving.
What on since we're celebrating the 25th year, what we really like to, and one of the reasons people who listen to us all the time, they know that we're always kind of hitting on the point of being both an artist and a kind of a cultural entrepreneur of sorts. And so we're kind of trying to cultivate that in artists so they can kind of take control of their careers. What kind of advice would you have for someone who is just at the beginning of that trek, just at the beginning of that journey, and they're just kind of figuring out some of the things that it'll take, or maybe they kind of understand some of the legal and organizational efforts that are going to have to take place, but the longevity, the endurance. What kind of ways would you instruct
I think that there's a generation of us. When I say us, I mean artists that started not-for-profits from passion.
Yeah.
Again, from seeing a need. And having maybe a program vision, a cultural or artistic vision, and just plunging in and learning as we go.
Right.
And even with having a master's of arts administration, it's still a kind of learning as you go, right? So for young people, I would recommend getting a strong board. If you're looking in terms of not-for-profit, right? And let's just start with not-for-profit. Is really get a really good board. Not just people who are your friends, but a comprehensive type of board of different kinds of people who are going to work and bring in monies and expertise. And then, like you said, doing the homework and making sure that you have, your ducks in a row so that you can survive, and not, there's an expression that one of the founding members of Yaffa uses, that he says all the time, don't put your hat where your hand can't reach.
Right.
So sometimes that's very good advice. Because sometimes if you grow too fast, you get caught out there, and then it's hard to come back from that, right?
So build a foundation.
Exactly. Build a foundation, talk to people, be open, and we as a community really need to embrace philanthropy more. Those of us who might be, in fields that are lucrative, need to really see the importance of our own institutions and our own organizations and give to those organizations or volunteer in those organizations to help to sustain them, because artists, it's very hard to have both hats. You need business people, accountants, like you said, lawyers, people who that's their creative thing. That's what turns them on to help. Many times you'll find people who are doing very, very well financially, and they move their children to certain communities, and then they're very upset because their children have no sense of who they are, no sense of culture, and they try to find, somewhere to go. And they need to cultivate their organizations. It's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. 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 So, Linda, Dr. Hughes, we were having this conversation earlier because, we were talking about storytelling. And, I've been bragging to our audience, our friends out there, and saying that I was going to bring this ringer in, and this person who's really going to turn it around for us and set set us on this right path in terms of our own storytelling segment here, as we try to also celebrate the power of storytelling. And we actually feel like it's even though you have the democratization of photography and film or what have you, storytelling is still the most democratic art, right? And so we've been hoping to do that, and that's how we plan to build in the future. But I was so happy that you're coming, and I'm glad that you said that you would share with us one of your stories to help us get along the way on our little journey here. so I'm going to kind of open up the floor to you. In fact, actually, we have to go to a short break. So when we come back, we'll jump into it. So C3Arts Radio. This is your loyal host, Philip Harvey. We'll be right back. C3Arts Radio, and we are back.
When you asked me to think of a short story, this story came to mind because of where we are at now in our country. We, I think, are recognizing more and more that we all have to take responsibility for what is going on right now, and to do whatever it is in our power to do, to write a letter, to vote, to mentor a young person. So this is one of those short folk tales with a strong message. There once was an old blind woman that lived on top of a hill in a rural town. She was known to sit in her rocking chair and just feel the breeze, bask in the sun. But everyone in the surrounding town knew that this old blind woman was very wise. There were these two young boys. Oh, they didn't think this old blind woman was wise at all. They decided to go to the porch of the old blind woman. They wanted to trick her. So they decided amongst themselves to catch a bird. With the bird in hand, they decided that they would ask the old woman if this thing that they held in their hands was dead or alive. If the old blind woman said that the thing that they had in their hand was dead, then they would let the bird go free. If she said it was alive, they would kill it. So they went to the porch of the old blind woman with this bird in their hand, and they said to the old woman, "Old woman, this thing that we hold in our hand, can you tell us whether it is dead or alive? And the old blind woman pondered for a moment. And then she said, this thing that you hold in your hand, I cannot tell you whether it is dead or whether it is indeed alive. But this I can tell you. It is in your hands. So, my sisters and brothers out there, the world that we want, it's in our hands.
See, I told you guys we were bringing the ringer in. C3Arts Radio, the great Dr. Linda H. Humes. Linda, I know you have a couple of shout outs to go.
Yes. If anyone wants to contact Yaffa Cultural Arts, please visit our website, www.yaffaculturalarts.org, or check us on Facebook. We are going to have a GoFundMe that starts in August. We have a campaign to raise $25,000 for 25 years, and our party is going to be in December. And also, for those of you who love to travel, we are sponsoring a trip to Cuba in July 2018, and we will have information about that on the website in August as well. So you have enough time to get the ducats in line and come visit Cuba with us July 2018.
All right. So for more information, please go to yaffaculturalarts.org. That's YAFFA Cultural, you should know by now, arts.org. All right. We'll see you a little later. I'm so glad you guys are doing the thing on Cuba. We need that.